Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to be jumping into our next section here. It's a very, very simple section, so this should be a good one for you in terms of having a nice, easy grade. So go ahead and pause and copy down these vocab words. So we're looking at adding real numbers. So this first definition, the absolute value of a number, is its distance from zero on a number line. It's always non-negative. In other words, it's always positive, since a distance must always be positive. Okay, so absolute values, don't think of changing it to the opposite. It is a distance. So in other words, the sign for absolute value would be something like this, where I'd say the absolute value of -2 is equal to +2. A mistake that I see students do oftentimes is they think that this just means change the sign. That is not the case. The absolute value of +2 is +2. Okay, so it's always positive. Make sure you're making note of that. Two numbers that are same distance from zero on the number line are opposites. In other words, they share the same absolute value. So here, and going back to this example, -2 is 2 spaces away from 0, and +2 is 2 spaces away from 0. Therefore, they're both opposites of one another. So if you hear me using these terms, you need to know what I'm talking about. All right, here's something that I like to add in my PowerPoints. It's just every now and again I have words of wisdom. I find something that I think is going to be helpful for you. Just good, high quality stuff that just help you with your life. And I found this one. It's just really some great words of wisdom, so I thought I would share it with you. My friend thinks he's smart. He said onions are the only food that make you cry. So I threw a coconut at his face. There you have it, words of wisdom to live by. All right, so here, adding and subtracting real numbers. You could copy this into your notebook, although I really expect you to know this and be an expert at this if you are in the algebra class. But if you have numbers that have the same sign and you add them like you always do, and then keep the sign as to whatever those numbers are. All right, so 3 plus 4, +3 plus +4 is +7. -3 plus -4 is -7. Down here, numbers with different signs, you kind of have this wordy definition, and you could read that. It says subtract their absolute values, and then the sum has the sign as the one with the greater absolute value. So here I have -3 plus 4. The difference between 3 and 4 is 1, and then 4 has a greater absolute value, and it's positive, so that makes that positive. Over here, the difference between 3 and 4 is still 1, but this time, the one with the greater absolute value is negative, so this is negative. All right, so let's go through this. Add the following numbers. Here, the signs are different, so you should be able to see that very quickly. Know that that is -5. This one's signs are the same, so I add them as I always would and just keep the sign. This, the signs are different, so I find the difference. And after I find that difference, I keep the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 9.5, and it's positive. Over here, I'm adding fractions, so just real quick, hopefully you remember how to do these things. Let's go ahead and, let's change this to numbers that have a common denominator, so it would be -10 over 12, and hopefully this isn't something entirely new to you, but 9 plus -10 is -1, and then I keep my denominator. Okay, so hopefully none of those are bad. These fractions, don't let those bother you. The same rules apply. So here I have -10 is larger than 9 in terms of its absolute value, so the value stays negative. All right, so these are very, very important properties, these inverse properties in terms of anything. What that says is that whatever property does something, there's a property that undoes it, which is a weird way of thinking, but the inverse property of addition says that I could add a number and get 0. So if I have A and I add its opposite, that equals 0. If I have -A, its opposite's +A, and those added together equals 0. That's the inverse property of addition. And then in terms of subtracting real numbers, if I subtract a 5, that's the same thing as adding its inverse. Okay, so subtracting a 5 is the same thing as adding. Sometimes you'll hear this called an additive inverse. So adding the additive inverse is the same thing as subtracting a value, and these are the same thing. All right, so what I used to do when I was teaching 7th grade was I would tell my students to just get rid of subtraction altogether. So here I have 3 minus 5, and I would say we're going to kill subtraction and then change the sign of the following value. All right, you could do that with this one over here where I would kill subtraction and then change the sign of the other value. And here I get 3 plus 5, and this one's 3 plus negative 5. It's going to be especially important when you have minus a negative, that you go ahead and change that to a positive. Hopefully that's not a new concept to you. So let's just keep moving along. So subtracting real numbers. So here I have all these subtraction problems. I'm going to go through and just, as I say, kill subtraction. So that now is positive, or addition, and this is positive. So I have negative 8 plus 13 is positive 5. This one, I'm going to kill that and change that. Larger absolute value here. So I have negative 8.9. This you could change, but I don't think it really makes sense, right? 9 minus 9 is 0. This does show an additive inverse, though. 9 plus its additive inverse will equal 0. And then this right here, change that to subtraction. You get 13.5. Okay, so hopefully you didn't have any problem with any of those. And all right, so here we have a word problem. You want to pause and write this down. Adding and subtracting real numbers. A reef explorer dives 25 feet to photograph brain coral. It's called that because it looks like a brain. And then rises 16 feet to travel over a ridge before diving 47 feet to survey the base of the reef. Then the diver rises 29 feet to see an underwater cavern. What is the location of the cavern in relation to sea level? So on these kind of problems, it's kind of helpful to think of a picture. All right, so here the reef explorer dives 25 feet. So if the reef explorer, here's my little guy, he's swimming, scuba tank. He's going to dive, and if he's going down 25 feet, then we would say that is subtraction, or a negative 25. And then from there it says he rises, he goes back up 16 feet, so we're going to add 16. And then to travel over a ridge before he dives another 47 feet. So we would subtract 47 from here to survey the base of the reef. Then he rises 29 feet to see an underwater cavern. So he goes back up. So we're going to say that's a positive value. So then he goes back up 25 feet. Whoops, 29. You guys got to catch these mistakes. 29 feet to see an underwater cavern. What is the location of the cavern in relation to sea level? So here we have this problem that kind of walks us through this. Let me erase some of this stuff so I have some room to work with here. All right, so eraser. Hi, little guy. See you, man. Sorry. And we'll go ahead and clean that up too. Okay, so 29 feet. Now, if I were doing this problem, first thing I would do is go ahead and just go through and kill all of the subtraction, which there's only one subtraction problem in here. I'd go ahead and make that positive and negative, because then I could add or subtract this any way I want. So here I have negative 25, plus 16 is negative 9, but I could go ahead and combine these steps because it's all addition. So negative 47 plus that is negative 18. And then I add these two values together, and I get negative 27. So where's the location? It's 27 feet under the sea level. And that's really not too difficult of a problem. If you need to draw a picture like I did, that's an excellent strategy. Use a problem like this. You know, just do whatever you're going to have to do in order to get it right. Now, a lot of you could probably read that and not need the picture. Let's keep moving. Oh, good news. That's it for now. A very short video today, so that's good. I'll see you in class. We'll do some problems, and then you'll have a checkpoint. Have a good day.